All right, everybody. Our first two guests are joining us to raise a glass to 29 Palms, California. That's where we are today. We're airing live our Big Blend Radio Happy Hour show, airing live from the historic Homestead Inn. You can check that out at 29inn.com. Our first two guests are Chuck Caplinger. He's an amazing artist and muralist. He really knows about, painting people, telling the history of the land and the people, as well as the natural history and nature, and he also does metal work too. He's also going to be joining us with his wife Holgie Forrester, who's an actress and has been there, done that around the world. So looking forward to chatting with them both. We were going to actually, initially our plans were to meet with them in their geodesic home in his desert art studio and gallery, which is right outside Joshua Tree National Park here in 29 Palms. But of course, with this pandemic, or this virus, we are all keeping our distance, our physical distance, but not, we're here. We're all together in this. So go to his website. It's desertartstudio.com. So we're going to chat with Chuck and then chat with Holgie and have a good conversation. So, Chuck, how are you doing?
Lisa, I'm doing fine. And Lisa and Nancy, or is it Nancy and Lisa?
Well, she's the mother,
thank you so much
better
for having...
address her.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much for having Holgie and I as your guest today on Big Blend Radio's tour of 29 Palms, Toast to 29 Palms.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, it's been years. I mean, I think, I don't think any of us even remember us all meeting that it's been that long. When we first...
Well, it has been, and Holgie and I have been here in 29 Palms actually 21 years this month.
Wow.
So
It's
been close to that since we talked last.
I think it is actually been because I know our magazine, back in the day when we were print, we had Southwest Blend, and we were The Blend and went to Southwest Blend, and that's when we put you on the cover. Jerry Hagman, here at Homestead Inn, she found us in the mountains in San Diego and said, you need to get your butts over to 29 Palms. And when Jerry says something, we do it. Everybody does it. And so we got up here and we saw all the murals, and I think we were kind of at the beginning of what was called the Oasis of Murals, right? The whole community.
That's correct.
Yeah. And so we put one of your murals on the front cover. I know the big lizard.
I love the lizard.
Yeah. So have you always painted murals, or I know that you do oil paintings too? What came first for you?
Well, actually what came first with me is I had a long commercial art career. Mm-hmm. I actually was an art director with NASA back in the 60s during the space race days. And then eventually I came from Houston. That was in Huntsville, Alabama. I came there back to Houston, and then in 79 moved to California. So when we moved here to 29 Palms, I was commissioned to do a mural. Prior to that, I'd done maybe 8 or 10, 12 murals in my Houston days.
Oh, man, Houston.
So when you do a mural, is there specific kinds of paints that you need to use? Or, in prepping the surface has got to be a little bit different than painting on canvas?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, the process is really fairly simple if you have the right materials and the right people to work with. Having the wall properly prepped is a real must. And yes, I do use paints that are acclimated towards, they're UV rated. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, because in this climate with the intense heat that you can get,
yeah. One of the
the wind, the rain, the heat, all of that is a factor in the longevity of the mural.
Yeah. It's interesting because coming back to 29 Palms, and it's been, I'm going to say, like 6 to 8 years since we've been here, and we found a new mural over at the Schoolhouse Museum, and it was about the Desert Protection Act, and that's one of yours, right? Is that one of your latest ones out here?
Yes, I actually I partnered with that mural at the Schoolhouse Museum, and what's the other muralist's name?
Art Mortimer.
Art Mortimer, of course. I'm sorry. Art is an accomplished muralist. He usually works out of Los Angeles, but Art designed the mural, he actually painted a stamp pattern, and inside the stamp pattern, I painted the painting of the longhorn sheep, bighorn sheep.
Okay, very cool. I love that mural, and because it was such a big deal, even when thinking about all the protection work that happened for the desert here to make everything work. I think that's what was so special to me. It was kind of a fight to make it all happen, right? To protect even the Mojave
Yes.
Trails area, Santa Snow, all of that area.
Oh, absolutely, and and so many people here are very protective of the desert and of our environment, and it's quite frankly, it's a continuous battle, if you will, and but I think the powers that be in our higher desert have done a great job to be a part of that.
And did you do the 2-9 with the exclamation point when you drive into town from the West End, right? You did that too?
I actually designed it, and the city paid for it, and we had an artist from somewhere between here and LA do the actual construction of it.
Okay, wow.
But I actually took a cardboard backing from a sketch pad and put together the design for it in 3 dimensions.
Wow.
Oh, that's interesting. Wow.
Yeah, this is cool.
So yeah, where there's a will, there's a way.
Yeah.
What led you to move to 29 Palms? Because you got Houston, you've got LA, you were in Hollywood, you had a studio in Hollywood, and then decided, hey, I'm going to 29 Palms. Do you remember the first day you ever set foot here?
Wow.
Oh, gosh, yeah. Well, the wife and I were on my Harley Davidson. We were doing the river run, and we left from Los Angeles and rode to the river. And on the way back, we managed to come through 29 Palms. And at the time, we stopped for gas and free donuts and coffee to bikers. And someone mentioned, have you seen our murals in town? And, of course, the wife, she kicks in and says, oh, well, here's the best muralist in the country right here. My husband's an artist. And so, voila, 3 or 4 months later, I'm commissioned to do the Desert Storm Victory Parade mural.
Oh,
cool. Very cool.
Yeah, because it's interesting because I know you do murals everywhere, but I know we chatted about this before on the phone, but we were in Exeter, California as part of our Love Your Parks tour, visiting Sequoia National Park, Kings Canyon, and the Sequoia National Forest, and lo and behold, downtown Exeter, there I see a Chuck Caplinger signature. I'm like, we know that dude.
Yeah.
So you did a mural up there too. Do you want to tell people about that one?
That's correct. Well, I don't remember much of the details, but I know most of my mural projects, it starts with a phone call and like, hey, Mr. Caplinger, we're interested in talking to you about a mural in our community. And majority of the murals early on in this part of California, at least, were done to promote a community. A lot of the communities were smaller, and murals play a part in bringing in tourism or renewing community pride, things like that.
I think that's important to, because I think murals tell the story.
They're so welcoming.
Yeah, we actually we're on like we do the stories of parks as we travel in the communities, but a lot of our friends and partners have like sent us on story missions, and one of them, artist Victoria Chick, she's out of Silver City, New Mexico. They have a healthy mural program and public art program, and she sent us on a mission to document as much public art as we possibly can across the country. And it's interesting because you start to open your eyes into, when you go to a community, things could be closed. You could be downtown before the town opens up, and you start to get a sense of what the town's about, like from ancient history to present times, the nature, the people. I think murals and also the metalwork really do something to make a place a destination. Wouldn't you say that it really goes hand in hand with tourism too, putting public art?
Oh, absolutely. I think a good example of some work Holgie and I worked on together would be Shafter, California, which is a farming community. And we did 2 murals. Each one was on a building a block long. So that's 2 blocks worth of Shafter's history. And it was in celebration of their centennial year. And we spent probably 2.5, maybe even 3 months there, working 10 feet away from their main thoroughfare with traffic going back and forth. And I had to wear earplugs, by the way. It was so loud. And then across the street from that was the railroad tracks with half a dozen trains a day. So it was quite an experience. But yes, it told the whole history of Shafter, and it was such a delight to be part of that process.
I just think when people go into a town and they see public art, whether it's sculptures or murals, the first thing it says is we care about our town, and the second thing it says,
oh yes,
is not only do we care, but we want you to be here. It's so welcoming, and you feel comfortable right away. There's already something interesting about the town that makes you want to be part of the destination. So I think public art is so important.
I do too.
You hit the nail on the head.
Well,
that's
thank you.
Totally correct, Lisa.
10 points. So we want to say hi to Holgie because I know she's your assistant. So what does she do as an assistant for you?
Well, what Holgie does as an assistant is, well, let me put it this way. It's the only time I can tell her what to do.
Oh, I know.
I
She's
say
all
that
Spitfire.
tongue-in-cheek.
See, that's why Lisa and I work together. It's the only time I can tell her what to do.
Oh, right. You're the mother.
Holgie is just the love of my life, and she's just full of energy. In fact, our late city manager once said, Holgie has enough energy to light up Las Vegas.
Oh, cool.
And I swear he wasn't far from he wasn't far from wrong. And it's such a delight for us to work together. She's an excellent assistant, and she's a great little artist herself. In fact,
cool.
I have her do a lot of the details.
Oh,
and she can paint a straight line like nobody's business.
Oh, that says that puts you on a level of like
genius.
Yeah. Like the straight line. Nobody can draw a straight line. I'm like, well,
no.
Well, she can. That's right.
Yeah.
And plus, she runs errands, washes out the brushes. Makes the connections with the motel. Oh, speaking of motel, I only have to get one motel room with her as an assistant.
Oh, see, here it is. Here it is. It's a lot more comfortable that way. I think he enjoys it.
Right.
Well, let's say hi to Holgie.
Okay, here she is.
Hey.
Happy
Holgie,
Wednesday.
Happy Hump Day. Happy hour to you. So, Holgie, welcome to the show. I wanted to know, first off, tell us about meeting Chuck, because I know he's your cowboy, right?
Right. I call him cowboy because he's had real cow shit on his boots. He ain't no Hollywood rhinestone cowboy.
Listen, that's right. You know what? You've got to stand in it. You can't not stand in it if you're going to be out in the West. If you at some point you need to stand on a patty, but
or toss one.
Exactly, or have one fall in your face.
Yeah, well, I met cowboy because one of my side jobs in Hollywood while I was supporting my acting career was making exotic costumes for strippers, and I was at the back door of the Kit Kat Club on Santa Monica Boulevard in Hollywood trying to sell the outfits to the girls when they first came to work at 11 o'clock in the morning because they'd be inspired. And he rode up on a motorcycle with all dressed in black with those kind of police glasses where kind of like reflector where I couldn't see his eyes but he could see mine, and I was really trying to talk to the girl on the back of his motorcycle, Mary, my good friend, about buying this outfit, and I could hardly get the words out because my heart was beating so fast because there was something that I was terribly intrigued about this stranger on this motorcycle, and I could hardly get my breath, but I did manage to sell her the outfit, and later on I went out to dinner with Mary. I said, "What's up with that guy?" And she says, "Oh, well, he won't make a commitment. I want to move to Venice." And I said, "Well, Mary, I got to tell you something. I find him very attractive. Now, I would never jump his bones while you're with him, but I'm letting you know right now.
Oh.
If you're ever done with this guy, I'm the first in line, okay?
Oh,
I'm
wow.
putting her right out there."
Wow.
So I went to see Mary. She was bartending at Bordner's right off Hollywood Boulevard. And Cowboy used to live in this loft above Frederick's Hollywood on Hollywood Boulevard with a bunch of other artists and a guy who used to be the roadie for the Chambers Brothers and a snake oil salesman and a photographer, and they were all still friends. And they used to come down the back stairs of that loft, and it came into the patio of this bar called Bordner's, and Mary was bartending. And when I walked in, she said, "I don't want to work 5 days. You need to work 3 days, and I'll take 2. And I said, "Good," because I'm tired of trying to sell stripper costumes, because every time I try to collect the money, they say, "Oh, my dope dealer got here first," or "My boyfriend got arrested last night," or "We got evicted. I'll pay you next week." And so I started bartending, and Cowboy came in there flirting with me and asked me out. And I said, "Okay, what's the deal with Mary?" And he said, "Well, she wants to move to Venice, so I'm going to help her do that." And I said, "Okay, well, you just keep me posted." So Mary moved to Venice. He helped get her an apartment. He came in and asked me out. And I said, "Okay, what's the status?" And he says, "Well, we're definitely separated." And I go, "Well, how does Mary feel about that?" And he said, "Well, that might take her a little longer." And I said, "Well, you come back and you talk to me again when Mary knows that it's all over." And so he came back a few weeks later and said, "It's definitely squared between us." And we went out on a first date to Olvera Street and had Mexican food and strawberry margaritas, and we haven't been separated since.
Well, all righty then.
Ooh, strawberry margaritas.
Are we talking Venice Beach or Venice?
Venice Beach, man.
We're talking Venice Beach in Hollywood.
Yeah. Righty then.
I love Venice Beach.
Me too.
I haven't been there for years. Like
yeah,
at
it was
least
fascinating. 10... Yeah, I used to love to go down to the boardwalk there and walk around and see what everybody, the musicians and the crazy people, vendors, and all the personalities, and all the entertainment. It's fabulous on a Sunday afternoon.
So what got you into the world of acting?
Well, my mother went to take me to Maurice Shira in the Red Shoes when I was 5 years old. And I came home and I wouldn't stop dancing till she promised me ballet lessons. So I studied ballet for 15 years, and I became a soloist with the Sacramento Civic Ballet. And my dear mother passed away of cancer when I was 15. And I was really devastated. And I went through a whole apocalypse because I was left in the house with my father, a Swedish father who was very strict, and 2 brothers. And I was always saying, I'm going to be a dancer. And my father wanted me to go to college, but I realized we were hitting heads. So when my mother passed away and I had 1 more year in high school, I suddenly decided that's the best way to get out of the house is go to college. So I told my dad I would go to college. So I went to San Jose State, and I got down there and I got into the first musical, which was The Music Man. And I realized, wait a minute, I wasn't mesmerized by the media of film, by the media of dance. I was mesmerized by the media of film and acting. It just took me 15 years to figure it out. So I immediately transferred to UCLA. I was in my 3rd year. I checked into UCLA. I got into the dorm there. I got to my first day of classes, and I picked up the trades, and there was this audition at Walt Disney NBC. I jumped in my Mustang. I drove out to Burbank Studios. I put on my point shoes. I hadn't had them on for 3 years while I was in college, and I faked it through the audition. And by the time I got back to the dorm, they called me and offered me a 2-year contract to tour the United States, Canada, and Mexico as Alice in Wonderland. And I went to the dean at UCLA and I said, "Can I get an honorary withdrawal?" And they said, yes, that's possible. How long
Wow.
have you been a student with us, young lady? After I showed him my contract, and I said, 5 days. And I never looked back.
Wow. Wow. So this was before meeting Chuck, right? Going on this
Oh, yeah,
tour.
this was way before that, honey. I'm dating myself. I'm 71 and fabulous, I like to say.
She
And
is
that was
fabulous.
when
Everyone
in
check her picture out.
1969 I wasn't even 21 yet.
Oh, she was happy. She was rolling and running.
It's a late bloomer.
So I want to know because you sent me an email and you said you dived in with snakes in Argentina for a game show. Like, okay, how does that even start to happen that you end up on a game show in Argentina? Let's start there.
And what kind of?
I don't want to know.
Okay,
Yeah.
Yeah, you just go online, and there's a website called realitywanted.com, and you see everything from Survivor to going on Oprah, and you submit, and sometimes they want a video, you self-tape, or sometimes you go in for a personal interview, or sometimes, like one time for one of these reality shows, I've done about 6 of them, I had to go to the infield at Santa Anita Racetrack on a Sunday afternoon of the opening of the races, and I got lined up with thousands of people and got 2 minutes to dazzle them, and then you get cast, and they run you up the flagpole, they interview you, they do a psych test, they do a physical analysis, and this particular show was for same people that do Fear Factor, Endemol, and they were doing another show called A State of Panic, and they were shooting it in Argentina because they did terrible things to us. It was one of those competition shows, and we fly down there, and we're blindfolded, and we go to this big old mansion, and we go into these rooms where they say you got to get the money and you got to get out the door by a certain time. You go in the room, you start collecting the money, and all of a sudden a painting falls off the wall and water starts coming in, and then all of a sudden snakes are swimming in the water.
Oh,
but
hell
I was too busy getting the money and stashing the money and making sure I got out the door before the time was up. And it ended up this big Samoan guy who was one of the competitors who said, when they interviewed him, oh, that old lady ain't gonna do nothing. And sure enough, when the door was closed, they would unlock it every now and then. We were the last 2 in the room, and I saw that he might get out before I did, so I dove, and by this time the water was pouring out of the room, and he grabbed me, and we were both airborne, and we hit the back wall and then fell down. And when they watched the tape, they said, well, we have to go back and see who stayed in the game. And they decided when they looked at the tape, they said, Holgie stays in the game because her butt hit the ground first. So the big Samoan guy got eliminated.
That's what he gets. That's what he gets. Our friend Nicole Robbins, she was in Fear Factor, and she won Fear Factor. She ate the rat. She ate the rat that was in the blender. She ate it. I
couldn't do that. That's one thing I said, because I knew they had done that on Fear Factor. So when they interviewed me, I said, look, I'll go to Argentina. I'll crawl through slimy stuff. You can half bury me. You can half drown me, but I won't eat any creepy, crawly stuff. And she said, this show, you don't eat creepy, crawly stuff. And I said, okay, I'm in.
Okay, so now come back to 29 Palms, and I hear you're rolling around in the desert, with the Marines.
Hello.
Yeah, I went to another open call in Hollywood, and little did I know it was for to be a civilian on the battlefield for the United States Marine Corps at the Air Ground Combat Center at 29 Palms to participate in the training to help to prepare our troops for deployment to Iraq and Afghanistan. And they said, okay, this is what we're going to do. The first thing we're going to do is a drug test. Half the people got up and left. They said, okay, the second thing we're going to do is a background check. Half those people got up and left. The next thing they said, you're going to live in the desert 10 days at a time. There's no running water. There's no heating. There's no cooling. Everything you pack in, you'll pack out. It's going to be 14 in the winter nights and 114 or to 124 in the summer. You won't have a change of clothes. You'll have to survive. You'll have to learn Arabic. and it's going to be extreme conditions, and you can't break roll 24/7, and you're going to live out in these war-torn villages that we built that look like the Middle East in the middle of the desert. How many people think they could do that? About 13 of us have raised our hand, and I got hired.
Okay, so what makes you say yes to something like that?
Because I've always wanted to jump off the cliff without a net. I always feel that life is an adventure, and you got to get out there and grab it with the gusto that you've got, and experience everything that I feel like every time you wake up, the world is full of endless possibilities, and you just have to participate.
Oh, I'm with you on that.
Totally down for that.
And living in a geodesic dome, there's something about seeing the 360 degrees, right? And seeing things and watching the desert. And the desert, I think a lot of people don't understand the intricate beauty of the desert. I mean, when you walk through the desert, there's teeny wildflowers that are just absolutely amazing. They're like, dude, we're badasses. We're poking our heads out. I don't care how rough it is. Here we are. And I think the desert has that kind of attitude. It's got your attitude on that. We're going to not just live, we're going to thrive, we're going to do it. So what do you enjoy the most out of living up here in the high desert?
Well, I call it God's landscaping. You don't have to landscape it because God did that for you already. And because we have the luxury of having 10 acres that really border the Joshua Tree National Park, it's pretty pristine, and we're above the water line. See, we don't have water here. We have to have it delivered. We have an above-ground tank. So we don't have much development up here. We have 10 acres, and we've only got one neighbor about 20 acres away. And we have an Airbnb that's on the other end of the road, and we're on dirt roads, and it's what I call the big quiet. It's the endless view and the big quiet and the beautiful, not only the sun rising, but the sun setting. The skies are amazing, and you can see, as far as the eye can see past the mountains, and even I swear you can see a slight glow of the lights that from Las Vegas if you look northeast, because it's right across the East Mojave Preserve from us, really, on the other side once you come out Nipton Road onto the 15 from the Mojave Preserve, which we've driven the back way many a times. And it's just, there's like people come out from LA and they go, what do you want to move out here for? And then they spend one night and maybe sleep outside on our deck or out by our pool patio, and they're like, oh, this is really nice. Or they bring out a guitar and they start playing music outside, and they say, you know what, I think I could stay another night. And I get, oh, you're getting it. You're getting it. Yeah, there's just a peacefulness and a serenity.
It gives you space.
Yeah, it really, it's so spacious. Yeah. It's interesting having lived out here and then also out in Tucson area. And then we go into places, and we love forests and things. We love nature. We're, obviously going from park to park. But there's this expanse of the Southwest that it's infinite. It's like looking out to the ocean. And we are in an ancient ocean bed, right? And you just feel it.
Right.
There's so much history here, and it just is magical. Are you getting desert lilies on your property like we are just down the road from you? I mean, we could walk to you, kind of.
Well, yeah, I don't know the names of all the plants, but yeah, we definitely have beautiful pink, gorgeous cactus flowers growing, and yellow, beautiful cactus growing, and we've found a couple of ravens that have adopted us since we moved here. I didn't catch on for the first 3 or 4 years, and then I said to Cowboy, wow, I think that's the same 2 ravens that keep hanging around. And now every time we go out and eat breakfast on the deck, they do a little flyby just to let us know they're nearby. And I rescued an owl from my pool filter one day, and he came back 2 weeks later and did a couple circles around the deck and flew right at me. Cowboy said he came back to tell me thank you. I saved his life. And
absolutely.
I've got, if I go out, I've got jackrabbits that run by, and I just have a roadrunner now that's nesting in our workshop area, the artist workshop area outside, and he's and I noticed he was on the nest, and he went out to get some water, and I very quietly stood on a stool and looked down in, and sure enough, there's 2 eggs. And the poor guy, through all the storm last night, I checked on him quietly because I don't want to disturb him and him and her, because they both share time on the nest. And he was sitting on those poor little eggs in the middle of all this wind and rain and everything. So, we feel very close to nature. We become very simpatico with the wildlife. I have jackrabbits, and I made a water station outside my pool area where they can come and drink. And we get families of quail, and I talk to everybody. I talk to my little Scooby-Doos that run across the desert.
The Dippy-Doos,
I talk to the coyotes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, that's
they
the
look
way it
at
is.
me, lady, I'm a coyote. I'm not supposed to be your friend.
I love that.
But, coyotes are really interesting. When we lived in Tucson, we had a vacant lot on one side and then in the front of us. And one day this coyote just beds down in the lot across from us. I'm like, there's something wrong, because they don't do that.
Oh, wow.
There's too many people.
Yes.
And eventually I opened the garage door, and I put water out, and I put eggs.
Oh, wonderful.
And he comes in. The next thing I know, we have this coyote. He's
3-legged.
Yeah, and he had
old one.
Yeah, he was older, and he had something wrong with one leg, and he just bedded down, and was like, okay. And we have cats, right, on the inside.
Oh,
so I'm like, this is interesting.
Yes.
And then he peed in the garage.
Yeah, he did. He marked his territory, and then we had a roadrunner that was in the backyard, went on the roof
with the feral cat.
Yeah, and so did the feral cat, which on the other side. And so we had this roof population. We had the coyote in the garage.
Wow. I love it.
I know, and it was so cool because we just moved around as normal, and we'd have a cocktail hour, and then all of a sudden they were all here, and the feral cats were on this reed fencing roof we made that was really bad, but we tried our best, and they would sit there, and this is really interesting. Just Lisa and I, but every time a man came over, one of the cats would spray on him.
So there you go.
Really
That's why we
funny.
called him Spray Bob. But
yes, right.
Speaking of cocktail hour, Holgie, it is time for our happy hour question. All right, so the happy hour question is, if you could spend happy hour with anyone, alive or past, who would it be? Where would you spend it? What are you going to eat and drink? And we want the gossip of what you're going to talk about.
Yeah.
Well, that's not it's going to make me cry, but I'm going to talk about it, because every time that subject comes up, it breaks my heart, because I see the relationship you have with your mom. Aww. And when my mom died at 15, she was my best pal. She was Miss Personality. We would go grocery shopping together, and she would start singing in the grocery store, and at the time I was so embarrassed. Mother, don't do that. And yes, that's just her personality. She was vivacious. She was outgoing. She embraced everybody. And I used to be embarrassed by those things. And now I look back and I just think of what a wonderful person she was. And we would go to the swimming pool, and she would bring a picnic. And if there was some little kid sitting off to the side by himself, and she was breaking out the sandwiches, she'd say, look, you have to come over and eat with us, She was this kind of lady. She was so generous. And she sewed my costumes by hand when I did some of my first ballet performances. And when she got cancer, one of the times I got to talk to her before she passed, before she went back in the hospital for the last time. We were sitting and doing a little puzzle together, and she told me that whatever you do, darling, I know you'll be successful, because she knew I was having questions about my career and where I was going to go and what I was going to do. And she said, I don't care if you're a famous ballerina or you're a secretary or what, you'll be the best at whatever you do. And she's the one that made me so strong and so independent. It made me want to go out in the world and accomplish anything.
Wow. Wow. And that's it's special because when parents acknowledge you and acknowledge who you are and recognize you are and then promote that you can do it. You can do what you want and be part of that journey, and sing in the aisles.
The writing was on the wall and she knew it. And it was like she knew she needed to reinforce me just at the right time before she wouldn't be able to.
Man. Well, I'm glad you remember her in the positive. I know it's sad, but it's touching and positive because there's a lot of people who don't have that,
Right, and when I see ladies like you that have this great relationship with your mother and the longevity of getting to do all these wonderful things together, I know my mother and I would have done that. I used to sometimes when she was in doing the cancer thing and before it got really bad, I would pretend I was sick at school so that they would send me home and she would come and pick me up and we would just go out to lunch.
Yeah.
Well, and
just
that
hang
means
out,
everything.
And go shopping and just hang out and have a good time together. And I'm so glad I did that.
And you know what? Quality time is always quality time versus routine time. I know we need routines because we need to be stable.
That's right.
But routines are made to be, just like rules, are made to be broken in the right time, the right way.
Uh-oh, what are you going to do, Nancy? I know something's up. She's going to do something. She's going to do something.
Just look for it.
Oh, my gosh. Oh, my gosh. So before you put us over to Chuck, where are you going to spend the happy hour with your mom? Where would you do that?
Oh, I don't know. We would have such a good time. I mean, we were in the Cress's dime store in the basement where they had a little counter service. And having fish sticks and chocolate sundaes. That would be fine with me.
Ooh, sounds like fun for sure. Well, I appreciate that because here's the deal. Right now, while everyone's trapped up and cooped up together, there's that irritation that happens between people because they're all together and it's like, hey, we haven't been around each other this close, this long. We're going to have a show about that, everybody, April 14th. But reality is to embrace it and embrace those things, and you're going to, all those irritational things are something that you're going to miss down the road. So embrace it and embrace the time you do have.
Right, and when you do realize that, Cowboy's 81 and I'm 71, even when we get into a little, start to get into an area where we might conflict, I always say to myself, it's not even worth it. The time I spend with him is too precious. And you never know what might happen, and you want to make every moment the best you can, so it's not worth it to fuss about anything.
Exactly. It's true. I kind of have, on a scale of 1 to 10, really, just how important is it? And then you realize it's not important at all, or it's mega important.
No, it's
and
usually
then you
not
have
important at all.
Or you have to choose your actions and your words extremely carefully.
Yeah.
That's right.
Just respect from the heart. Holgie, thank you so much for joining us and also sharing, this personal time and relationship you had with your mom. We appreciate it, and it's been fun. And can you put us over? I know you and Chuck, again, everybody, we're all doing this a little differently today with this pandemic thingy. But, thank you so much. And I hope before we leave that we get to see you and give you a hug before we leave town. And I promise we don't have the virus. So it's going to be.
That's right. I hope so, too. That would be a lot of fun. I'd love to see you and interact with you in person. Yes,
you
definitely.
Too.
Here's Cowboy.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Hey, Cowboy, do you have cow muck on your boots? She said
so. Oh, absolutely.
Well, good. That's important. There's no cowboy without cow, patties. I'm trying to watch my language here.
Frisbees.
Can you see why I love this woman so much?
Yeah, she's special for sure, and has a zest for life, which is so important. I want to ask you, what is the favorite thing for you living in 29 Palms? Like, what is it? Is it the nature? Is it the art, the community? There's a new bakery.
We like the bakery.
It's all of the above. Truthfully, of course, at my age, I don't get out as much as I used to and all of that, but that's not really what it's about. It's like Holgie said earlier, it's about the environment, the fact that we're up above the town. We're 3 miles from downtown, and we can look down upon the city lights at night. We can look at the Marine base. We can look 30, 40 miles away to our northeast and to the west. And it's the interaction with the wildlife. It's the fact that I can walk outside, interact with the wildlife, take photos of the environment or one of the critters, and come into the studio and paint. I don't have to go anywhere.
Right. And the
we just
environment,
wouldn't trade it.
The lighting. Isn't the lighting, to me, the lighting is such a trip out here, just, going out and photography-wise and seeing in the mornings, watching the sunrise and seeing the changes and how, there's people who've written that, sunsets are golden and sunrises are pink. And I just want to say you don't have a damn clue, obviously, because if you get outside in the morning, it can change according to condensation, and there's pinks, and it can
what
go,
angle you're looking at.
It'll go from pink to orange and gold, and that, I don't know where that came from, but I see all these quotes of people who say they know what they're doing and know what they're talking about, and I don't. I see the light here. It's a different light. I mean, having lived in the Sonora and Mojave Desert, to me, the desert lighting there's a magic to it, man.
Lisa, you're absolutely right. And I think a lot of people that visit the desert for the first time pick up on that. And maybe they don't know exactly what makes them feel as good as they do, but that's part of it. And see, I'm a Dutch German, and like Holgie said, part Cherokee Indian. And the Dutch German part of me appreciates the light, and that's kind of what I try to convey with my landscape paintings. The lighting that's 70% of the painting right there.
Yeah, I think that with the murals and that we've experienced and of your work, you definitely have an affinity for nature as well. But now I have to ask you, like we asked Holgie, if you're going to spend happy hour with anyone, alive or passed on, who would it be? Where are you going to spend it? We want to know about the food and what are you going to drink? And what we want the gossip. What are you going to talk about?
Well, I don't really have to think too hard about that. As I would love to spend the happy hour with my late father, Albert Franklin Caplinger. He passed away in 1966. It could have been 67. He was age 58, and he died way before his time. It was from hardening of the arteries, they called it back then. And I would love to spend the time, like, say, at an outdoor country picnic. Let's say we're back in Texas. We're having fried chicken, potato salad, some of my dad's wonderful pinto beans, and, of course, watermelon. I would drink iced tea, and Dad, of course, would drink coffee. We'd probably sneak off, sit beneath the tree, and I would have a lot of questions for Dad. For instance, his mother was Cherokee Indian, and she passed when he was just a young boy. And I would like to know how much he remembered about his mother. Because I never really got to know much about my grandmother. I would love to know about that heritage. I'm proud of my Native American heritage. So that would be a conversation I'd love to have with him. Secondly, I'd love to hear about, one of the questions I would ask is, from whom did he learn to carve wood so creatively? He was wonderful at woodworking. At one point, when I was working with NASA in Alabama, Mom sent me a photo of Dad proudly displaying some stuff he had made. He had made 2 violins, a guitar, a mandolin, some hexagon-shaped bowls, stuff like that, and it just blew me away.
Wow.
And his dream was to one day retire and have a little woodworking shop.
Yeah, cool.
That's cool. So it's been in your blood, right? This creative side, you know.
The creative side of me is definitely I inherited from my father.
That's awesome.
Even though he never would admit that he had any creativity in him.
Wow, interesting. You know, and I think also there's something about that tangible side when you're crafting from wood.
Sometimes creativity becomes it's a natural for some people. They don't really need to learn it. They can learn to enhance it and market it and do things like that. But it's natural. So when you say, "Are you creative?" they're just like, "No, I'm just me." That's kind of the answer, and they don't see it the way other people look at them. They don't see it when they look at themselves. They just, "I'm just me."
Right. Exactly.
Yes.
It's interesting. Well, Chuck, thank you so much for joining us. It's such a pleasure to have you and Holgie on the show, and also to talk about 29 Palms. I mean, it really is beautiful to be back here. We appreciate Jerry. I mean, she hasn't kicked us out yet, but it's coming close. I'm just kidding.
We're trying to behave, really.
We're really trying. But everyone, go check out Chuck's website. It's desertartstudio.com. Also, keep up with, the property here is beautiful. It's 29in.com. But thank you so much, and we'll be chatting with you and hopefully see you guys before we leave town.
Yeah, hopefully we can do that.
Oh, we would love that very much, and thank you so much once again for having us on your show. It's been a lot of fun.
Thank you. You take care.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye-bye now.